Hey, just a reminder, this weekend is Memorial Day in America, and I hope that amid the barbecues, baseball games, and beach time, you and your family will not forget that Memorial Day is a day of remembering. It's set aside to remember those who wore the uniform of our U.S. military and who paid the last full measure of service by sacrificing their lives for our freedom. And it would be tragic if we fail to pause and reflect on the magnificent blessing to live in the United States of America. One way we can do that is to attend a parade, a memorial service, or some other outward expression of respect on Memorial Day. Janet and I make a point every year to attend a Memorial Day service honoring our fallen veterans. And during my tenure as governor, we hosted veterans for a picnic at the governor's mansion that followed a decoration ceremony at the National Cemetery. Since then, we try never to miss being a part of a Memorial Day event. Even if we're traveling, we go online to find a remembrance somewhere nearby. It's a great tradition that I hope you'll do as a family. And in your prayers, thank God that someone gave his or her life that you might have the one that you enjoy. But let me say, this weekend is special to me for another reason. May the 25th commemorates 50 years of marriage for my wife, Janet, and me. 50 years. Yep. We were married May the 25th, 1974, after our first year of college. Now, we were both 18, a couple of months shy of our 19th birthdays, which would come in July and August that year. 18 may seem really young these days, but back then in Arkansas, getting married at 18 made us seem like late bloomers. Well, not really, but it seemed quite right for us. We got married at her house with only a handful of family and close friends in attendance because we couldn't afford an elaborate church wedding or expensive rings or an exotic honeymoon trip. But the wedding wasn't about an event that cost more than the price of a new house. It was simply about us, a young couple in love, committed to each other that day to spend our lives together in the best and the worst of times, in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer. You know the lines. Well, at the time, we probably didn't realize what that might mean. We certainly had years of the poorer part. Our first residence was half of a duplex apartment in a 100-year-old house for which we paid $40 a month. And at $40 a month, it was terribly overpriced. It was 3 tiny little rooms, and the entire apartment had less space than a small Winnebago. I mean, there were some months we barely had enough to buy food and pay utilities. But through it all, we never failed to tithe even the smallest income, believing that living with 90% of our income with God's blessing was just better than living with 100% of our income without his blessing. And I can say this, that 50 years later, that is a decision that we have never regretted. And God has blessed us beyond our wildest dreams. Well, barely into our second year of marriage, Janet was diagnosed with cancer, a malignant tumor attached to her spinal cord that doctors originally thought to be inoperable and terminal. The best prognosis originally given to us was that if they could even reach the tumor, removing it would likely involve severing her spinal cord, which might save her life, but at best would leave her a paraplegic for the rest of her life. Many people prayed for the struggling young couple, and the surgery went better than expected, but it did require weeks of follow-up radiation, her learning to walk again, and we were told we'd never have children. Well, God blessed us with 3 wonderful children and now 7 grandchildren. Our home state of Arkansas actually elected one of those 3 children that we were told we couldn't have to be the governor of the state. How about that? Now, to get to 50 years, I'll tell you, hadn't always been easy. When I'm asked the secret, one thing I say is that we committed that no matter what problems we faced, we would not consider divorce as a solution. We did consider homicide a time or two, but never divorce. And so here we are, marked by the scars of life and the challenges of everything from poverty to prosperity, from life-threatening illnesses to me running marathons, and to her, bungee jumping, riding horses, and parachuting with the Army's elite Golden Knight parachute team. But one thing we've learned, love isn't what happens on the day of the wedding. It's not the giddy or sentimental and syrupy emotions of youth. It's the learned behavior of patience, faithfulness, sacrifice, and mutual commitment to God and to each other. 50 years ago, some people thought we were crazy, and they thought it was just puppy love. But it was real to us dogs. And 50 years later, we're still saying, I do. Morgan Ortagus is no stranger to the threats facing our country abroad or here at home, and she's outraged about the influence of terror groups like Hamas that are popping up right here, sadly being seen all over American college campuses. Please welcome former State Department spokesperson under President Trump and founder of Polaris National Security, Morgan Ortagus. I cannot tell you how much I wish you were at the State Department right now, because when I'm watching Tony Blinken go over and basically just betray our ally Israel, Morgan, it hurts. What's happened to the State Department?
It has felt really dark over the past 3 years, but especially since October 7th. And, initially, President Biden, Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, they had strong words in support of Israel. But there were many of us that kept sort of, saying this was a ticking clock. We knew that eventually they would cave to public pressure. We hoped they wouldn't, but we suspected that might happen. And that's happened in droves. And unfortunately, I think Biden's campaign team is running their foreign policy. Otherwise, it would make no sense that you would abandon all of your stated principles and everything that you said that you would do to stand by Israel. I will say, as dark as it seems right now, and as much as America has not been committed to our ally and friend, Israel, the way that the Biden administration has been to Ukraine, for example, as dark as it seems, I'm reminded that 3.5 years ago, I stood at the White House with President Trump, with the leaders of Israel and Arab states, as we made peace. We made the Abraham Accords, the first peace deals between Israel and Arab states in 26 years. And at the time, I had a little baby in my belly, Adina, who's here, who you just met.
She's beautiful, beautiful young lady, by the way.
The prettiest baby ever been born. If I do say so, I am her mama. But that was, she was still in my belly when that happened. And now she's a toddler running around backstage. But I'm reminded, as dark as it seems, that there are moments when we stand up and we stand for the things that we believe in, that you can do historic things for Israel. And I just hope and pray that we get back to that point.
I do too, Morgan. And I'm very concerned because we've actually had people in government positions accuse Israel of war crimes. They have gone out of their way to be so mindful of civilian deaths, but Hamas keeps pushing their civilians in front of the line of fire. And people don't get that. They just don't.
That is such an important point that you brought up, because the media and even the Biden administration likes to treat this war between Israel and Hamas as if it's between two normal combatants.
Yeah.
And that's not happening. These are terrorists. These are people just a couple weeks ago that's disrupted a food aid truck that was going into the people that they're supposedly fighting for, and they killed 4 Israeli soldiers in the process. These are people, as you said, who purposely hide behind women and children, who purposely wear civilian clothes. They don't wear clothes that would distinguish them as a combatant because they want their civilians killed. And that's, I think, one of the major glaring errors of the media, is they try to treat this as this is two fair combatants. No, this is Israel going after a terrorist group. This is a terrorist group designated by the United States, by many countries in the Middle East as well, mind you, even by Saudi Arabia. And what they did on that day was horrific and can never be repeated again. You're talking about shooting parents in the face in front of their children and then burning the children alive in their house. I mean, there's stuff that was so horrific that I don't want to repeat it on the stage because it feels like hallowed ground. But the stuff that happened is, I've been in counterterrorism and national security for about 20 years. The stuff that happened on that day is some of the worst stuff that I have ever seen. And Hamas is the face of evil. And when you look at what happens, listen, when you have sophisticated modern militaries like ours or like Israel, do civilians die when we are at war? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We try to do everything that we can to avoid them. And actually, considering this has been urban warfare, Israel actually has gone above and beyond whenever you don't have combatants in uniform, when they're hiding behind their civilians, when they're digging in tunnels. Oh, and mind you, they took as many hostages as possible, including Americans. It's important to remember on this Memorial Day that we still have 5 Americans that have been held hostage since October 7th by this terrorist group. We still have Americans that are left behind. Not surprising, because we still have Americans left behind in Afghanistan.
And tragically, our president says very little about those American hostages. We've got a lot more to talk about with Morgan. When we come back, we're going to keep her here. Keith Bilbrey, tell our viewers what else we have coming up on the show the rest of the night.
Well, still to come, Chef Andre Rush prepares some insanely good smothered chicken. And award-winning singer-songwriter Jimmy Yeary performs a perfect Memorial Day song right here on Huckabee.
We are back with former Trump State Department spokesperson and active Navy Reserve officer, Morgan Ortagus. You know, Morgan, that's a side of you that a lot of people don't realize. They know you from the State Department, the Trump administration. What they don't realize is that you're a naval officer.
I serve in the reserves. But you're right, I don't talk about it a ton because it's one of the things that's so precious to me and that I like to, keep and able to do. And I've served in the reserves for a decade now, almost a decade. I think we're in 2024, so in November it will be a decade in the reserves. And I love serving in the reserves because you have access to so many people that you wouldn't in your normal life. You meet people from all around the country, and there's just a sense of pride on a drill weekend when you put on a uniform that you don't get from doing anything else in life. And so it's my privilege and my honor to serve my country.
Well, you know, people who serve their country, love their country. How fitting on this Memorial Day weekend that we're able to talk about your service to America in uniform, as well as when you're not in uniform and you're serving in the State Department. And I just want to tell you, I sure hope you're going to be back there next January. I truly do. It would be a godsend. You did such a terrific job. I want to talk about the issues that we face here at home. We've had an open southern border. You've just been down there. Yeah. You have seen it firsthand. How worried should we as American citizens be that this open border has allowed people from all over the world with terrible intentions, including Hamas members, to right now be living among us and we not have a clue?
Well, I always feel like when people invite me on that I'm the bad news bearer because I'm always talking about these tough issues, war and chaos. The southern border, listen, I cover foreign policy and national security writ large. Our undefended and open southern border is the biggest, most concerning national security issue that we face today. It was my 3rd trip to the border, and I gotta tell you, there's so much to unpack there, but when you just start looking at who's coming across the border, it doesn't take a genius. You don't have to serve in the military or serve in national security to know it doesn't make sense that the fastest growing, the largest number of people coming over the border as a group right now are Chinese young men of fighting age.
You know, the obvious follow-up to what you just said, and it was very, very, I think, revealing. FBI Director Chris Wray says these flashing lights is the greatest security threat. If that's the case, why are we spending so much of the Department of Justice time going after people who protested at an abortion clinic or spoke up at a school board meeting? Why aren't we fanning out to get these people and get them out of here?
I'm worried that, go ahead. I'm incredibly worried then it's going to take another 9/11 or another terror attack for these people, for the current leadership in our government to come to their senses. You see the statistics, you hear the stories, and actually you can see it in the polling, right? Fox just had a new poll that came out a couple of days ago, maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, and in the Fox poll, when you look at the top 3 concerns of voters, immigration and the border is up in the top 3. That's often an issue, as you know, having ran for president. That's an issue that you often dealt with in the Republican primary. It's not typically a general election issue, but now it is a general election issue.
If you had a warning for us, what happens in this country if, I'll say, if God forbid Joe Biden gets reelected and we have more of these policies? Does he just go even further?
I am trying not to think about that outcome and trying to focus on what would I advise President Trump, if he were reelected, and his team to do from a policy perspective. So I'm trying to direct my energies there. But I'm hoping that they haven't made an about face on some of their disastrous policies, like on Iran or on the border, for example, because they're just trying to get through the election. And then maybe if they win, then they will, reverse those policies. I mean, listen, that you are starting to see Biden did keep Trump's tariffs on China. You just saw this month in May that he released more tariffs, more sanctions, more actions against China. You also saw him doing the same, as it relates to Iran, starting to have tougher rhetoric, maybe reportedly some more executive actions on the border. So they're trying to, I think, tiptoe back into Trump administration policy without actually calling it Trump administration policy. I mean, go figure. When you change everything because the orange man is bad and not because it was bad policy, it was really sound policy, but you emotionally rejected it because you didn't like Donald Trump. I think they're starting, 3.5 years later to regret those decisions.
Well, maybe there's a better way than just hope Joe Biden incrementally goes back to the policies. Just get rid of him and elect the guy who put those policies in the first place. That might work. Morgan, thank you very much for being here. If you want to keep up with all these important events, I hope you'll go to Huckabee.tv. If you click on Morgan's guest page, we'll show you the links to the latest news, and you can connect with her on social media. Keith, I know somebody's in the kitchen. I wish you would tell us who it is.
Well, my tummy is rumbling. Up next, Chef Andre Rush is cooking up a savory dish. And later, some hilarious stand-up comedy with Scott Wood. All that and more to come on Huckabee.
And welcome back. Hey, this is going to be fun. Chef Andre Rush is a decorated U.S. Army combat veteran with over 20 years of service. But he's also, yes, give him a hand. But he is also a best-selling author, motivational speaker, veterans advocate, founder of the anti-bullying nonprofit 2222 Inc., and, this is pretty impressive, the White House chef for several administrations, 4 in fact. Here to show us one of his special recipes on this Memorial Day weekend, would you give a hero's welcome to Chef Andre Rush? Andre, great to have you here, my friend.
Yes, sir.
An honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What are you going to be cooking up for us tonight?
So I'm from the South, so I want to do something that's near and dear to my heart. I got some smothered chicken. I have some collard greens, of course.
There we go.
Of course, with hot sauce, if he's not from the South.
If you don't have hot sauce, you don't have collard greens.
It is not right.
It's just not right.
It is. And I also did a spin on my sweet potatoes. So the first thing I'm going to start with is actually the collard greens. I started with the hottest things first.
All right.
The hardest thing is going to be first. I'll do that just because it takes so long. I have my collard greens already kind of peeled up.
Okay.
As we know, I just pull the stem out. I am going to have the onions, and I don't know if you want to give me a hand with these. I just kind of...
I'm not that good at that. I can cut it up an onion, but it's not that fast.
Okay.
It's not that good.
That's just me.
I would have a finger in that pot, is what I would have if I did it that fast. It's amazing. I guess that's why you're a chef and I'm not, right?
No, not at
There's
all.
a lot to do with it.
And so I'm gonna double dip. We're gonna do smothered chicken at the same time.
Okay.
So we got onions and we got onions in here. You wanna do this onion for it?
Let's give it a try.
You gotta give it up.
How's that?
That's perfect. I wasn't expecting that, by
I
the
didn't
way.
hurt anybody. That's the main thing. No insurance claims will be filed. That's the good news.
So we have the onions, and then we're gonna do some garlic. It's quick and
course.
simple. That's my foundation. You gotta have the onions, you gotta have the garlic on it. I kind of like to do a karate chop with my onions, my garlic. Quick smash.
That's why it's always.
Make it easy.
Yep.
Throw them inside, throw them inside.
So far, so good, Andre.
Same thing inside over here. Now what I do is I'm going to have a little bit of butter. I'm gonna put a little butter inside of there.
Oh, yeah.
Collard greens, of course.
Uh-huh.
And what I have for that, it's like my mirepoix. Now I'm gonna put my greens in.
Smelling good.
I'm gonna deglaze this right here with some chicken broth.
Okay.
My chicken broth, put inside of here. And then I throw in my hot sauce. Let that go in. I also have foundation, salt, some pepper,
Okay.
little regular garlic to go along with that as well. Put that inside. Collard greens, put that in, and just let it simmer. I'll let this go for all day, low and slow, sometimes.
All day?
All day. But I also have people's choice ham hocks.
There you go.
So if you have the ham hocks, it's great. If you don't, we can replace it with some like turkey, smoked turkey or whatnot. Put that aside. So this is done.
Okay.
And that's forget it.
All right.
Right now we have our chicken.
Okay.
Smothered chicken, foundation, just the onions. Let that go. Put some garlic inside of here. We'll do some seasoning. If you want to do salt and pepper, if you don't mind, please.
There we go. Look at the muscles on this guy. I mean, this is really... I want to tell you something. If I took my shirt off, it looks just like that, okay? Actually, one of my legs isn't that big. I'm telling you right now. It's just... Whatever he wants to do, we're going to say, okay. That's exactly what we're going to say. Pop it.
Put this down. I'm going to cool it down with this.
right.
I go down skin first.
Yep.
Put it inside. And I let that get a nice golden brown on top of it. I'll smother them. What I do with that is very simple as well. I got me some flour. I put some flour inside and make up a roux. And then I put the rest of my... I normally would make up my own sauce to go with this, but you can use whatever you like, whether it be vegetable, whether it be chicken, whether it be, not beef, don't use beef,
Okay.
of some sort to kind of go along with that. And then we come out that, we smother it, cover it up, and just let it sit. I do both sides, and I put it in the oven at a high heat.
High heat.
A high heat. I do it. Depending on what you have. If you have, that's dark meat. If that's white meat, you have dark meat, you can go a little bit slower. But
Yeah.
for this right here, I like it because I want it tender. So you go high.
When you
really
say high, we talking 400?
Like 450.
450?
Yeah, I go 450.
That's high,
Like
yeah.
that's really high because
Yeah.
the gravy's already made, so it's already smothered.
Okay.
Now if you go high with it, for this, because I hate dry breasts.
Yeah.
So what happens is, once we get all of this done, I also have sweet potatoes. I'm gonna show you what I did with these sweet potatoes, but it's very simple. Okay. I cut these sweet potatoes into, I did, what do you call it, a square.
Okay.
I just squared them. Just like that.
All right.
I clean them up completely good. And then, same thing, put them in a pot. Put a little oil, butter, put it in. I get my cinnamon, brown sugar, and I let them caramelize.
Okay.
I let them caramelize. Put a little bit of water inside of there so it's gonna get a little steam to it, and then it's gonna flake up, and then just pulling it all together, all those sugars and everything are gonna just come up and pull all that flavor out. And I put a little bit of salt just to bring out a little bit of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Probably.
And then a little bit of pepper also. I'm stuck on the pepper part, right? From being from the South. But that makes that, and then I stuff it all into this ramekin, and then I put a topping on it, which is just gonna be the flour, soft butter,
Okay.
a little cinnamon, and that's it. Squish it together, put it on top, put it in the oven on that same high heat, 500, 450, put it in there for about 10 minutes or so, and that's a wrap.
And we're going to have this recipe on our website so people can get it.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely.
It is very quick, it's very simple. This whole meal right here was made within, well, besides the greens, within an hour.
Pretty good. So we're going to get the finished product and do a little taste of it, aren't we?
We are.
That's
so
the plan.
This is the finished product. You
Okay.
have our smothered chicken, we have the sweet potatoes, and then we have those collard greens.
Let's give it a try.
Let's give it a try.
Want to plate some of that?
Of course.
We were talking before. It's hard to get good collard greens.
It's
a lot of
hard.
people just don't make them anymore.
They just don't understand.
And they'd understand if they had them with the hot sauce. I'm going to reach over here and get a fork. On a sweet potato.
Hope you enjoy that, Kev. I hope it's really good.
I do too.
Yeah.
You go ahead and host the rest of the next couple of segments.
Right.
I'm going to be eating, having dinner over here with Chef Andre. All right. Well, I'm going to get to started on this, but if you want to book Chef Andre Rush to speak at your event or get his best-selling memoir, go to Huckabee.tv. We will connect you. And we got this recipe out there. But Keith, while I eat, why don't you tell everybody else what tasty item we're serving up next?
Oh, yeah. So bad. Christian nightclub founders from right here in Nashville talk about their new startup. And be sure to stick around for some incredible music from the great Jimmy Yeary right here on Huckabee.
Well, the wreckage from a storm can leave individuals fleeing and also sometimes just feeling hopeless and lost. But Samaritan's Purse has made it their mission to make sure that those people aren't just seen, but they're picked back up with practical humanitarian aid. And it doesn't end there. Samaritan's Purse is sharing the good news of the gospel that reaches beyond any physical bounds. Partner in mission with Samaritan's Purse. Here's how you do it. Give a generous gift, and you can do it right now. You can do so by calling Samaritan's Purse, or make it even easier. Scan the QR code on your screen. You can visit their website that easily. Your giving will change lives in Jesus' name. Social media is misnamed because it often leads to anything but social. It's often leading to isolation, bullying, violence, other very antisocial behavior. But there are some young people in Nashville, and they are bringing back face-to-face socializing and making real friends with a great new idea. It's called Pop-Up Christian Nightclub, called the Cove. Watch.
The need that we saw as the Cove was that there was no safe space to gather outside of church for young believers. So we were looking for community, and the only place that we could find it was church, but not every church had a strong young adult program. And so we desired to fulfill that need where we could go places outside of church, still serve God, still have fun, and build community at the same time. We addressed it by coming up with a Cove, honestly. We thought that a Christian nightclub would be a great way to reflect what we wanted to do. So we thought we love to dance, we love to sing, we love to praise God, and we can do that in an environment that's cultivated in a safe way, which is why we have the rules, no smoking, no drinking, and no twerking, to establish that this is a holy ground, but there are things that might look like it's secular from the outside, but when you actually step foot into the Cove, then you realize we're meeting a need that's much greater than having fun. We're having people that are coming out, finding out about new Christian artists, finding ways that they can express themselves through dance and still have a good time glorifying God. We're truly honored and humbled by God using us to do what He set on our hearts. We're also aware of the mantle that comes with it. And so there's a sense of heaviness that we understand that these are God's people, not our people. We're not trying to promote ourselves, but we're trying to promote what God has placed on our hearts, which is Acts 2, which is where we get a lot of our understanding of community from, where we're living life together. And so we understand that this is not about us. This is more than just fun. This is more than just a Christian nightclub. It's really about steering and spearheading a revival. We aim for a revival in Nashville, and this is just one way that we believe God has sparked it through us.
Please welcome four of the co-founders of the Cove, Darren Starks, Chim Rivera, and Jonathan and Jordan Diggs. Guys, I love what you're doing. This is the most amazing and original idea I think I've heard in a long, long time. Who thought of this? Where'd this come from?
So the idea for the Cove really started with a group of 7 friends. We're all creatives and entrepreneurs, and we've been in a lot of untraditional spaces. So we were like, how can we reach our generation of young people in an untraditional way?
Well, you're doing it, and it's just so cool because you don't have a fixed location. You move around, you go to different places, and you announce on social media, the Cove is going to be open. But I think it's interesting, you have 3 rules that everybody has to adhere to, and they're going to sound really like old-fashioned rules. Jump in there and tell me, what are those 3 rules?
So, I mean, the 3, thank you so much for that question. The 3 rules are simple. It's no smoking, no drinking, and no twerking. And I mean, it's one of those things where you get to be in a place in an environment where you don't have to necessarily give in to what society thinks that you need to do to have fun. So we just wanted to create that space where people can feel safe and feel like, hey, I can meet different people without compromising my faith.
What a cool idea. And so people can come and have the same kind of fun they might have at a nightclub. They're not going to be subjected to being overwhelmed with smoke or alcohol. Nobody's going to leave having to get a designated driver. But they're going to have a good time. And they're going to meet other people, not on a phone. They're going to meet each other face to face. What a clever idea. So what happens at a meeting of the Cove? We obviously have seen their dancing. The break dancing, I think Keith was hoping he could come and do something, maybe at your next gathering. But what all happens when the Cove gets together?
No, what happens at the Cove is really a space for community, ultimately. We wanted to create a space where people could encounter God in a new way, express themselves freely and in a safe environment. But ultimately, what we're building is a space where people can build lifelong relationships and memories. And so the experience they have at the Cove, they're able to leave with. And in a space and an environment and a culture that we live in where it's increasingly moving into independence and isolation, we want to create a space where people can come together and live in the way that God intended, and that's together.
So these folks who come to the Cove, they go on social media. You send a message out, I guess, to them, and you say, okay, we're going to be meeting at X place. But it's never necessarily the same place, is it?
We are able to do pop-ups because we don't have a set location. And so we're looking for different places to franchise to. If you guys would like us to come out, all we need is a venue, sound equipment, and lighting equipment, and we're there. And this allows us flexibility to travel around Nashville and potentially create communities in different subdivisions. So
I mean, this could happen all over the country.
Exactly.
People could take the model that you've created. And I think what's really also just extraordinary, I mean, we're looking at hundreds of people coming to these things. And they're having fun. And so the idea that, well, Christians are very boring, they don't have any fun. You're blowing that out of the water. Guys, I just want to tell you, I love what you are doing. It is so original. Nobody's ever thought of anything like this before. I hope the whole country gets turned on to the pop-up nightclub that has been invented by you guys and your friends. Thanks for sharing this great ministry with us. And may God bless you, continuing to reach people. Thank you very much for being here.
thank you so much.
Well, I wish these guys the best. I hope this idea does catch on in cities across the country. Of course, if you're in Nashville and want to get on the list to be alerted to the Cove pop-up events, go to Huckabee.tv. We will connect you to them so you can sign up and know when they're going to be. I think Keith is going to be at the next one. I don't know about Trey. He may not feel up to it, but who knows? Right now, Keith is going to pop up and he'll tell us what's coming up next on the show.
Well, stay right where you are. Comedian Scott Wood has more than a few jokes up his sleeve when we come back on Huckabee. Huckabee.tv and get your very own made in the USA Huckabee mugs, t-shirts, and more.
Well, how many of you would love to see Keith Bilbrey and I get out and break dance to some music tonight? Yeah. I'm pretty sure we could both get down there. I'm not sure we could get back up.
I think you're right.
But one of the things that would make it really special is that we would have amazing music to get down on the floor and have at it, because the best music in America is right here in this theater. Trey Corley and the Music City Connection. Give them a hand, would you? Scott Wood has been called the new Rodney Dangerfield, which ironically is high respect in comedy circles. He's appeared on major TV networks, Comedy Central and America's Got Talent. His Tubi TV comedy cooking show is pretty cool. It's called Something Smells Funny. And his dry bar comedy special is Mr. Punchline. Would you please welcome the hilarious Scott Wood.
Am I on? One more time for the governor, come on. You guys look fantastic, I'm telling you. Someone backstage said I look like the love child of John Elway and Gary Busey. Can you believe that? But I love being here, man. They've been taking care of me. They got me staying right over here at the Motel 3.5. Anyone been to that one? They stole my towels, for crying out loud. It's crazy. I see it's the older crowd. Who still has their prostate? Raise it up. Come on, people, let's do it. 2 women raised their hands. It's wacky, Governor. But you guys are fun, man. I get to go all over, and I'm just super glad to be here. Traveling all over, doing the comedy. I'm married. We got married people here. I'm sure there's some married people here. Want to talk about my wife and kids because they're not here. I'm telling you, it's always something with the wife. And I'm old-fashioned. My wife's a woman. So, yes. I know, right? I did a show in Palm Springs, California, where I'm from. Well, it's like the gay 90s there. You're either gay or in your 90s, am I right? But I love being married. I had a little fight with my wife before I came out here. I called a little fight. They worded it differently on the police report. Do you know what I'm talking about? The governor knows. Come on, I'm telling you. My wife's crazy, you know. I close my eyes to take a nap. She starts yelling at me, "Watch the road." Anyway. I'm killing the band, I'm telling you. The keyboard player, he has no idea where he's at. That's fantastic. Are you married too or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Stay single, your pockets will jingle. That's all I know. My wife spends money like water, Governor, like water. Even our towels are name brand. Sheraton, Ramada, it's crazy. Motel 3.5, it's crazy, I'm telling you. But she hates the way I dress too. I don't like that. Before I left, she's like, "Look at you, nothing matches." Hurt my feelings, I was naked. Crazy, I'm telling you. Let it out, people, let it out, come on. It's a big night. My career skyrocketing, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, I'm doing an animal rights barbecue. Should be very exciting. Who knows where my career will take me? I love my wife though, man. I married my best friend. She says I'm always on Facebook. You're too much on Facebook. So I unfriended her. You know what I'm talking about? And I may have to block her too. There you go. You guys are fun. Thanks for laughing, man. I did a show last week. They were so drunk they didn't even know I was there. Can you believe that? Yeah, that was a weird church. But anyway, little Catholic church in Vegas. Anyone been to that one? Our Lady of the Scotch and Soda. But anyway, and I'm a comic. I love everybody like the governor. You know, it doesn't matter. I just want to make you laugh. It doesn't matter what you look like, race, creed, religion. We need to love one another. Because my best friends are Catholic. I went to a Catholic church service. You have to be in shape to be Catholic. The whole hour, stand, sit, kneel, stand, kneel, sit, stand, kneel. I'm winded. I asked the priest, I said, "Do you have a low impact mass? Do you have that?" Go Catholics, am I right? I got kids too, man, driving me crazy. I got a daughter 24, a son 17, and a blood pressure 180/10. I'm going nowhere at home too. And now my wife snores too. I don't know if you have a spouse that snores. Oh yeah, there's a couple of heads nodding yes. Some of the men. I'm telling you, my wife snored so loud, I got a sore throat. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? Sounds like they're making a cappuccino. What's going on? My kids are driving me crazy, man. My son, he's 16, and he's 17 actually, and he's 6'4". I'm telling you, and he's never full. You know what I mean? Looking for stuff to eat all the time. He answers every call that says potential spam. Can you believe that? These are funny jokes. I can slow him down. You people let me know. Hing to the hang to the fling to the phone to the. We's country western folk. But you guys are fun, man. Talk about my folks, too. I had a rough childhood growing up, you know. Didn't get along with Did you get along with your dad, Governor? Yeah, real turbulent, because my parents drank. And you know what I'm saying? It's horrible when you come from parents. This is true. My dad was a big drinker, too. Half Irish and all Scotch. Can you believe that? Then the cops pulled him over. They found 10% blood in his alcohol. Crazy, right? My dad donated blood. The guy who got it got a DUI. It was crazy. You know why I love you guys? Because you're sick and disgusting. Anyway, listen. Couple of quick impressions and then I'll get out of here. And man, this is such a fun night, and the chef and those young kids. And that's the rules we have at my house too, Governor. Right in the bedroom. No twerking, no smoking, no drinking. You know what I mean? And I live alone. But anyway, listen. But here he is, just making a quick stopover before I get out of here. Our next president, Donald Trump.
Tremendous, tremendous. Great to be here. I love it. I love it. Great to be here. Governor, you know I love it. Love what you're doing. Tremendous. I don't know what it is, but I love it. Tremendous. Indicted yet united. Anyway, 2024. Hey, I'm Scott Wood. God bless you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Governor. One more time for the one, the other. Governor Huckabee, come on, baby.
All right. Scott, you crushed it, man. You crushed it. Yes, you did. This guy's funny. Hey, if you want to see more of Scott Wood, including his Dry Bar comedy special, Mr. Punchline, you ought to book him for your venue or event. If you go to Huckabee.tv, we will connect you to Scott Wood.
That's our show for tonight, folks. Go to Huckabee.tv for more information on all of tonight's guests and to see an online exclusive performance by Jimmy Erie. Join Huckabee next week for military veterans family activist Taya Kyle, senior reporter for the Daily Signal Mary Margaret Olahan, dog trainer Wesley Williams, and more. Thanks for watching Huckabee.